Please welcome the Chairman of the Canaveral Port Authority Board of Commissioners, Micah Lloyd.
Good afternoon and welcome to Port Canaveral. I'm Micah Lloyd, Chairman of the Canaveral Port Authority Board of Commissioners. On behalf of my fellow commissioners, it is my pleasure to welcome you to our annual State of the Port presentation. In a few minutes, Port Canaveral CEO, Captain John Murray, will take the stage to provide an overview of another successful year at Port Canaveral and share what's in store for us in the next year. But before we get started, I ask everyone to please rise and join me to say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of the elected officials that are here with us and that have joined us here today for our presentation. I'm not going to mention everyone by name, but we all appreciate your support. Your continued support of Port Canaveral is very appreciated. On behalf of the board, I want to offer our sincere appreciation to Captain Murray, CFO Jeff Long, it's his first year here, and our entire Port Canaveral team. Your vision, passion, hard work, and commitment over the past year contributed greatly to another successful year. The port's cruise business continues to set records in terms of the home-ported ships and passenger counts, a testament to the investment we've made into attracting some of the world's newest and largest cruise ships and new cruise partners. In fact, Port Canaveral has become the destination for brand new ships, which speaks volumes to the confidence that cruise operators have in the port's ability to deliver exceptional results. Port Canaveral is a huge economic engine for the region and the state of Florida overall, supporting thousands of jobs and bringing new visitors to our community year after year. We have a strong cargo business that delivered millions of tons of critical commodities to communities and businesses throughout Florida and the southeastern United States. We're proud of our partnerships with the commercial fishing community and the support we've provided for aerospace operations. None of this success would be possible without the invaluable contributions of our partners, many of whom are with us here today. We thank you for your commitment and look forward to continuing to grow together in coming years. To celebrate the contributions of our partners, we've created the following video. Staff has created a wonderful video for us here. That demonstrates all the great work they do to make Port Canaveral the best it can be. Thank you.
Port Canaveral stands as a vital economic engine for the Space Coast, Central Florida, and the entire state. The diverse operations of our port are the catalyst of opportunity, supporting thousands of jobs, promoting business growth, and driving prosperity throughout our region. The foundation of Port Canaveral is the commitment of our partners, the hard work of our people, and the support of our community that makes everything possible. This year, 7.6 million cruise guests from all over the world embarked on the most exciting cruise ships in the industry, and the crowds keep growing.
With Disney and then the launches that are taking place in the area and offering these longer stays and different experiences where people can go to various theme parks and then also take a cruise and a longer cruise from Canaveral, those are real big pluses for the growth in the future.
The people that work at the port, from the cruise executive, the port executives, all the way down to the janitors, make sailing from Port Canaveral a very welcoming and safe experience for everyone that comes there. They want to be able to get you onto the ships and onto your vacation as fast as possible.
New hotels are being built, and transportation providers are expanding to support the port's growth in tourism, cargo, and the space industry.
We all have a vested interest in making sure the guests are happy and on their way. But we have complete confidence in the port's leadership. Captain Murray and his team do a great job of communicating with us. By us all working together to successfully deliver service to our guests, we are continuing to build this momentum to be just the very best cruise port, the very best destination we can. So the port's been just a tremendous economic engine. The cruise is the most visible segment, but we also see a lot of activity related to space that's coming through the port, military. It's wonderful because it's diverse. We're doing our job. We're building new hotels. We are improving our properties to support the business growth. You see other hotels being developed here. They're doing their job. The port's doing their job. They're building new parking infrastructure. And so, the other partners need to come along as well. So my wish is that we all come together and drive that vision forward in the best way we can, the top quality.
The future looks tremendous. I mean, we look at where we're going now compared to where we were 3-4 years ago, and the sky's the limit. We're doing probably 5,000-6,000 passengers on a good day. We have a lot of confidence in the port and the staff there that they're going to continue to grow, which allows us to continue to grow.
The expansion of cargo berths and storage facilities to support the growth of the cargo business has made it easier for terminal operator Ambassador Services International, ASI.
The port's made massive investments into cargo berths. In the last 5 or 6 years, they've increased our berth capacity by adding North Cargo Berth 8, North Cargo Berth 3, and recently they'll complete North Cargo Berth 4.
And how did that affect your business?
It helped us service our vessels more timely, get the vessels in and get them turned around quickly for our customer.
It's pretty incredible.
It truly is. It truly is. It's very exciting times in Port Canaveral.
Millions of gallons of fuel are delivered to the port and distributed to gas stations, airports, and other facilities. Port Canaveral, the state's largest fuel terminal, operates 10 loading stations where trucks refuel 24/7, meeting the fuel demands of Central Florida and the entire state.
It's really a combination. It's the people, because of the fact, again, from Captain Murray to every single person inside the port, they care about our business. They're always available, no matter what the issues are. We work very well together, and if they have questions, they know that they can come to us, and so it's really the people that make it the key and make it a special place to be. We're actually the largest independent terminal in the state of Florida. The port recognizes that, so they understand, and we stay in constant contact. They're supportive of our business to see it grow, but it's a relationship that it couldn't be any better from our side.
Tugboat companies have also seen increased business as more cruise, cargo, and space operations come to Port Canaveral.
Well, ships couldn't come in or out of the port without the assistance of the tugs. The port has impacted our business because it continues to grow. And we've got the new docks on the south side. They're coming together, and also on the north side. The growth has been exponential, and we continue to see more and more space stuff that we get involved in every once in a while as well. So it's been very helpful.
We just started February of this year, but we're real pleased with what the results are so far.
And what do you foresee for the future?
Well, just continued growth in this area. Florida is probably the largest growing state in the country right now, and there's just a lot of folks moving into Florida.
Harbor pilots with the Canaveral Pilots Association help navigate the cruise and cargo vessels in and out of the port.
Port Canaveral is an incredible partner for us. Port Canaveral manages the port, they schedule all the vessels, and they help us to do our job, which is to ensure that ships are safely and efficiently navigated into this port. All of the ships, all of the submarines, oil tankers, cruise ships that come into this port have a harbor pilot on board to take navigational control when the ship is safely out at sea and ensure that we can safely and efficiently get that ship into port. The current management at Port Canaveral has done an amazing job growing this port and expanding this port in a very financially prudent and efficient way. At the same time, taking that goal of being the largest cruise ship port in the world, but also understanding that there's other aspects of the maritime industry which are incredibly important. The recreational side, the commercial fishing side, the space side, the cargo side, and having to manage all of those separate priorities, but yet come out with a successfully run port. I think Port Canaveral and John Murray have done an excellent job.
Commercial fishermen also share the seas here, whether selling fish or operating charters.
We buy wholesale from fishermen directly from our waters off of Port Canaveral and other places, but everyone comes here to our dock, unloads. The fish is processed, weighed, iced, and boxed and sent to anywhere in the United States, Canada, California, Houston, Philly, New York. Everything goes out. As soon as it's landed, it gets sorted, packed, and gone. The port has grown in leaps and bounds. The success of the port is absolutely impressive. Kudos to Port Canaveral. They've really paid attention to the two seafood dealers left in Port Canaveral. We are in the port charter. We are here to coexist with the growth that we see around us.
I own a commercial fishing fleet of boats, the Canaveral Kings fleet. We have 3 boats in our fleet. We do commercial fishing and we also do charter fishing. We sell our fish commercially right here to Seafood Atlantic. We do probably 350 to 450 charters a year. Most of them come from the attractions in Orlando, but we do get a handful of them from the cruise ships. So we do get, I would say, 20 to 25 a year. And I honestly think that's something important for Port Canaveral, because if you're gonna have this as a destination port, you gotta have something for the people to do when they get here. So having boats and marinas to offer parasailing, charter fishing, restaurants for them to eat, locally caught seafood, that's all important to have this as a destination port.
Restaurants are also a big attraction at the port, especially with a view that's out of this world.
It's amazing. It never gets old. When you see those rocket launches, day to day, it just never gets old. The continued relationship with the SpaceX and Blue Origin and all the rocket companies around us and the old ones that have made us who we are in the port is important. And of course, the tourism. Just keep tourism alive and that economic engine from Central Florida to here. We want to build with the port, make those changes, but obviously, with the cruise ship industry growing and the new terminals that are in the horizon, as well as the Middle Basin project, we're excited to be part of Port Canaveral.
As guardians of the environment, Port Canaveral partners with organizations like Keep Brevard Beautiful to clear invasive plant growth on the shoreline, as well as picking up any litter left behind.
At Keep Brevard Beautiful, we have several crews who work throughout the county, and we maintain the causeways, the beaches, and the roadways all throughout Brevard County. Port Canaveral is an excellent partner. They are very conscious and environmentally aware of the impacts of so many people coming here. So working with them to prevent as much litter here in this area has been tremendously impactful and important for everyone who's invested in Brevard County.
It's also important in protecting the wildlife, especially endangered species. The Sea Turtle Preservation Society has a hotline for people to call if they see injured sea turtles.
Well, the port plays a big economic impact as far as recreational fishermen, and sometimes there's interaction between boats and fishermen and sea turtles, and if they're injured, then we come collect them and get them off to a facility that's going to rehabilitate them. And it's because we all work together, security, the port employees, employees of the businesses, that we're able to do this.
Port Canaveral plays a critical role in Florida's economy and infrastructure, supporting countless industries and creating significant job opportunities.
Port Canaveral being the second busiest port on the planet, it's a tremendous impact, not only for the local communities between Orlando and Port Canaveral, but it's for the entire state. The jobs. That port continues to show its importance to the state because of the flexibility, the growth opportunities that Port Canaveral represents to a great many industries.
Port Canaveral's success is built on the hard work and dedication of our port community. Strong partnerships remain essential to our continued success and shaping the bright future we are building together.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Port Canaveral CEO and Port Director, Captain John Murray.
Wow. Sound okay? Good. I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming. This is quite a turnout, standing room only in the back, so fantastic. It's hard to believe, but this is my 9th State of the Port address. It's funny how time flies, but I can tell you it's a very different one today than the first one that I gave back in 2016. So I'm going to kick this off. Obviously, we've stressed the partners and the relationships we have and how, our port helps everybody in this community, and then that extends beyond to the Central Florida and the state level. And we do so much here that is so beneficial. It's hard to put it all into a 4-hour presentation that I'm about to give. I know. We changed it around this year so we're not time bumping into another event. So we've got all the time that we need. Anyway, I just wanted to move on and say one of the observations that we've made is that our port is great. We do a great job. But in my view, we can always do better. And one of the things we did this past year, because as you know, we had 2 years that were relatively the same, but the next several years are going to escalate for us in a very rapid way. And I said, we got to do better at some of the things that we're doing. So I put the next slide up that it's raising the bar. And that's what we spent a lot of time this year thinking about how we could do better at what we do. Another little point that I want to share with you all that's something that really wasn't more than a speed bump, but we are now a $1 billion enterprise as of September. This port has really grown. We're a $1 billion enterprise, and that's really significant. So, raising the bar. What does that mean? Well, let's see what we did last year, just as different from prior years. We increased our passenger count to a record number, 7.6 million passengers. Granted, Miami's still ahead. I'm okay with number 2. We've got plenty of business here. We added parking facilities on the north side of the port and the south side of the port. We upgraded our parking processing system. The new system is called Flash, but it's truly automated. And historically, we were having credit card problems and all. We spent a lot of money. I want to think the total bill was $7 or $8 million to change out our entire parking system. But now that we've done that, it's a much more seamless system. All of our parking is pay on entry. That way, when people get off the ship, they can immediately leave the area. And that has helped tremendously in our traffic flows because everybody's out of the port that's leaving the port before the incoming arrive. So that's very important. We brought on a new mobile harbor crane. It was delivered earlier this year. It's been running on the north side of the port. It's doing quite well. And SpaceX has been using it frequently. We also are completing soon the rehabilitation of North Cargo Berth 4. That berth has been offline for at least 10 years. And we're excited to have that job almost complete. We'll be back on that a little bit more. All these points I'll touch on again later. And then the other thing, as I mentioned, we're a $1 billion enterprise. We've got a lot of money invested in terminals, roads, signage, all sorts of things in this port that wear out in this environment if you're not focused on keeping them up and maintaining them, and it's not always something we want to keep building new. We want to keep what we already have in good working order. So this past year, I've taken a real deep dive and looking at where can we improve in this port, and I think you'll see the changes in the coming months, and I hope you notice them. You will, I'm sure. So let's see what we did last year. We had a great year. Cruise revenue came in at $156 million. We did $23 million on our cargo business, 12 on our non-ship related revenues, that's leases and other types of business. And then our operating revenue came in at $191 million. That's a new record for us. It's marginally higher than last year, but it's a great result, and we're really pleased with how it turned out. Just to give you an idea on what that revenue components are, you can see we really are driven a lot with our cruise revenue. It does come from cruising and parking, and these revenue streams really do support everything else we do at the port. There's cargo docks that we build. Then yes, we get some monies from the state or the federal government from grants. we have to match those grants. The revenue that we get from operations is what we match it with. So it's very important that we generate this capital. If you look at our passenger counts, as I mentioned, 7.6 million. That's a new record for us. Last year was 6.8. That's a pretty big jump in 1 year, 800,000 more people passing in and out of Port Canaveral. This year we had 13 home-ported ships. Prior year we had 11. We had 911 ship calls, getting closer to 1,000 cruise ship calls. And we parked nearly 1 million cars. We were a big drive-in market. People drive to Port Canaveral. We're easy to get to. I've got another map that shows a heat map of where our cruise guests come from. We're very strong from the southeast U.S., obviously, Atlanta, Charlotte areas, Charleston. But we're also very strong. Strongest market, really, is the west coast of Florida. It really surprised me when we started looking at some of these heat maps on where people are coming from. So we have a lot of people from the Tampa, Hillsborough area, Pinellas, then another large market in Orlando, and then the bigger markets up in the southeast. But if you go through our garages, you'll see every state in the country. It's amazing how many people drive. So just on the operational capacity, the ships are 12% bigger this year, and by that it's the double occupancy, assuming every cabin has 2 people in it. That's what we use for double occupancy. And we went from capacity last year of 6.5 million to this year of 6 million last year to 6.5 million this year. But we did 800,000 more passengers. And the reason for that is we are also, in addition to a big drive market, we're a big family market. And some of our cruise lines carry as many as 140% of double occupancy, and others are 117 to 120. Overall, we're about 117% of double occupancy overall. So it's a pretty impressive number of folks that move through here. And we're doing it with fewer terminals than other terminals in the south that move a little bit more, but we're doing more with less. So I have to say, if you look at it on a per terminal basis, we are very, very productive. On the cargo side, we had a pretty good year as well. Petroleum products, very good. That's our largest commodity in Port Canaveral. Aggregates also did well. That's a lot of what we bring in is used for road construction in Florida. Department of Transportation, who are guests in the audience today, they're a big user of some of the products that come in through Port Canaveral. It's part of what we do in Florida is build roads and export tourism. Forest products, pretty flat from last year, but that is all lumber, plywood, commodities mostly coming in from North Europe, but they're directly driven by the construction industry. So with the interest rates being higher and some of the construction going down last year, this commodity was relatively flat. And the other 400,000 roughly is just general cargo that passes through the port. So the cargo commodity breakdown, there you see you've got petroleum, slag, forest products, then the aggregates are granite, limestone. Salt is a commodity unto itself. I'll come back to that in a minute. Fertilizer, which is a new product that we just started bringing in last year, so that's also good, and of course, our space industry. So what's next? What's 2025 look like? Well, we just passed our budget at the end of September at our September board meeting, and for next year, this is what we put on the books: 175 million in cruise, 24 million in cargo, 12 in non-ship related revenue, for a total operating revenue in excess of 200 million, $211 million. That's about a 10% jump over this year. And there's some reasons for that, which I will get into momentarily. But you can see that even in what is almost a flat year, we're still growing. This port is still doing well and growing. So on the cruise side, let's go through what we've got forecasted there. We'll have 16 home-ported ships this year, 8.4 million cruise guest movements in the next year. That's another significant jump of 800,000 over what we did this year. 1,030 cruise ship calls. So we finally broke that 1,000 barrier, or we'll be breaking it this year. 918 home port calls and 112 provisioning calls. And provisioning calls are ships that are based out of other ports. And MSC Cruises and Royal Caribbean both have weekly sailings that come from New York down to Port Canaveral. They provision here, and then they go on for their Bahama-based cruise. So it's an extra call that other ports don't get, but it's an opportunity for people from the Northeast to come into Port Canaveral, and experience what we have in the local market. So in that respect, we are a destination, and that is always helpful for our local businesses. We had a new ship here yesterday, the Odyssey of the Seas. It's just been positioned to New York, and it's a beautiful ship. It was here for the first time yesterday with a protocol from New York. We also have multiple ship and exchanges and upgrades this year, just as we have every year. I'll go through those in detail. The first one is we've got Carnival. Carnival still has the Freedom, Glory, Mardi Gras, and Vista, which have been calling for all the past year, but this winter we're going to have the Carnival Venezia. It's been sailing out of New York. It's going to be sailing this winter season out of Port Canaveral. And just to explain what we've done here is we put the seasonal ships on so you know what ships are here during the winter season, which generally runs from just before Thanksgiving until the end of April, early May. So that is the seasonal, and then the yellow are ships that have not called here before on a home port basis. Celebrity cruises. Celebrity doesn't go to Port Canaveral. What they do now. The ship will be here in early December, Celebrity Equinox, and Celebrity will be an ongoing, not one winter only, but an ongoing long-term customer here at Port Canaveral. So we are really excited to have Celebrity Cruise Lines. They've never been in Port Canaveral on a home port basis, and we've had many people request them, and we're finally going to get that ship. So we're really excited about that, and there are plans to expand their services going into the future, so we're really excited. Disney Cruise Line, we have the Disney Fantasy. She'll be going on dry dock next year, and as she goes to dry dock, the Disney Magic will come in and substitute for her. The Disney Fantasy is going to move over from the weekly sailing that she's been on into a 5-5-4 rotation, so she'll be here on a rotating basis. The Disney Treasure has just arrived and will be replacing the Fantasy next month on the 7-day turns out of the Cruise Terminal 8. The Disney Wish is the 3- and 4-day Disney product. That's also the new ship. Both the Treasure and the Wish are powered by liquefied natural gas, and the Wish will be operating out of Cruise Terminal 10. So Disney will be working from 2 terminals going forward. MSC Cruises, we have the MSC Seashore. She's been here for a year, and the MSC Meraviglia is the New York ship. She comes down on Tuesdays usually and does her provisioning call in Canaveral. We Norwegian Cruise Line, we're getting another brand new ship next year. The Norwegian Aqua will be here for a seasonal summertime operation. I think she comes in like the May time frame and be here through August. And we're excited to see that. It's similar to the Prima, which was here in its inaugural season, but it's a little bit larger. And we have the Norwegian Epic back. She's been a winter seasonal ship for us for a while now. Caribbean, Princess. Yes, Princess Cruise Line, another cruise line that's never called Port Canaveral home. Will be here this winter. In fact, the Caribbean Princess will be here next Wednesday, fresh out of dry dock and ready to start Princess Line sailings out of Port Canaveral. Again, Princess is here not for one season, but they have plans to be here for multiple years going forward. So we are really excited to also finally land another brand that's never been at Port Canaveral before, Princess Cruise Line. Royal Caribbean has the largest ships here at Port Canaveral. We have the same Adventure of the Seas, Utopia of the Seas have been here. Utopia joined us in July. If you weren't here, that was a big event. That ship's the second largest ship in the world right now, and it's on a 3- and 4-day rotation. Because she's such a large vessel on a 3- and 4-day, we turn a lot of people on that ship. All of the ships on Royal Caribbean's list here are large vessels. Voyage of the Seas will be here this winter. It's a smaller ship, but it's going to be here for the winter season, operating at Cruise Terminal 5. Wonder of the Seas is our weekly ship. She's the 3rd largest ship in the world right now. She operates on a 7-day rotation on Sundays, and she'll be replaced by the Star of the Seas, which is an Icon-class vessel, similar to the Icon that's down in Miami. And when it comes to Port Canaveral to replace the Wonder, it will be the largest ship in the world. So we'll have number 1 and number 3. So on the cargo side, we're looking at 3 million tons in petroleum. We might even do a little better than that. So we're optimistic that there's some changes that might be positive for our partners. Aggregates, 2.1 million, forest products 700,000, and in general 430,000. Breakdown, you can see it's still largest is petroleum slag. Slag is a product that's used with mixed with concrete, cement to form concrete, but it's a blend, and it's produced right here on dock in Port Canaveral. We've been doing it for a number of years, and their business has grown. They just had a major expansion just this past year. So Heidelberg Materials is the slag producer. Forest products might increase, depending who you listen to. The building industry, home building industry may be picking up a little bit next year, and as that picks up, the lumber will start moving in greater supply than it has been. So we're watching that carefully. And of course, the granite, limestone, those products are steady state. Some of them come from Canada. They can only be shipped during the summer months because the ground is too hard to dig it out in the winter months. So that's some of that seasonal. What I did want to do is give you a breakdown on petroleum, because we never talk about it, but what kind of petroleum products move through Port Canaveral. And the first big item in blue there, move over to this side, is regular gasoline. And there's two suppliers here in Port Canaveral that deliver to contracts they have with the fuel stations around here. So sometimes you'll see one station out of gas and the other one has it. It's just the way the industry works. But regular is our number one petroleum product, followed by diesel. That includes biodiesel. Heavy fuel oil is fuel used on ships that still burn fuel oil. So that is a ship bunker fuel. We also have jet fuel that goes to the airports in Melbourne, Sanford, and the international airport in Orlando. One of the things we're talking about in general is the pipeline from Port Canaveral to Orlando. Frequently they get to issues in Orlando because they only supply from the west coast of Florida by pipeline. They can get dangerously low, and as you know, GO has been expanding as quickly as we have, and as the airport gets bigger, they need to have an assured supply of fuel. So a pipeline is a potential opportunity that we're all exploring with the Department of Transportation. It would take trucks off the road and provide more assured access in Orlando. So some very, very good reasons to pursue that. Premium gasoline, small component, ethanol, and gas blend, those are all things that are mixed in gasoline. And asphalt does move in liquid form, and that comes into the Transmontane facility south side of our port. I just want to recognize a few of our partners here in the port. We've got Transmontane Partners. They are on the south side. That's one of our petroleum importers. And Seaport Canaveral, of course, on the north side of the port, which you just saw in the video. LNG fuel operators, we have 4 ships now that are fueled with liquefied natural gas. And the 5th one will be here next July. So LNG has become a major component for our cruise operations. Jax LNG is in Jacksonville. They're one supplier that brings LNG to us, and Shell is the other supplier. And they both have barges that move up and down the coast, and they bring the LNG fuel here for our cruise industry. Our terminal operators, ASI, Ambassador Services, you saw Mike Noyes in the film talking a little bit about that, and GTUSA is our other marine terminal operator. They're here today. Welcome. So it's terminal operators as well are Morton Salt, have their own proprietary operation. Heidelberg Materials, who I mentioned, is the slag producer, and then Martin Marietta, also road building materials, aggregates, granite, and lime rock. That all comes into the south side of the port. It's actually not on port property, but they move their cargo into Port Canaveral for distribution. And then our space operators. Today we have SpaceX and Blue Origin. Those two have maritime operations here in the port, and we work very closely with both of them. Let's see, in recreation for next year. We've got Jetty Park, and there's a significant number of park upgrades and campground enhancements that we're going to be making, about $10 million worth. And that's a lot of things, from a new camp stores, a new pavilion, a lot of detail. I'm not going to get into any of it at this event because in December, on our regular board meeting, we have an annual update on the recreation components of Port Canaveral. So those will all be laid out in detail at that next commission meeting. We'll continue our community events with rocket launches, kids fishing clinics, July 4th fireworks, beach cleanups, etc. Another thing we want to talk about is the Rodney Ketchum Park, and I'll talk again about the Marina District at a later slide, but Rodney Ketchum Park is in the Marina District, and for those of you that know, it has a 45-degree angle, and if you're trying to put a boat in, it's very, very awkward, and we've looked at ways to fix that. We think we can, but we've also received a state grant to redesign that ramp, so we're excited to do that and make it more usable for everybody. So if you're familiar with that, upgrade is in the works. So, way forward. What else in 2025? As we mentioned in the video and all, we are a catalyst for collective success. We know that, and we have, fiscally responsible decisions here with long-term benefits. So when we try to do something different, we do it taking into consideration all aspects and who might be impacted and who can benefit, and that's how we operate here. And sometimes if we do the wrong thing, it might impact somebody, and we want to make sure that we're always, to the best of our ability, doing the right thing. We're a driver of economic prosperity, not just locally, regionally. Our footprint extends well west of us and includes the state. We have a statewide impact. So we are an economic powerhouse here on the east coast of Florida, east central coast. And we're a facilitator of community growth. There's more visitors. There was a report on TV last night about the number of visitors at Space Coast. We have all new records every year with visitors. Well, we're bringing a lot of them here. They start on a cruise and then they stay. And that's very positive. A thing that I kind of chuckle about, when I first started at the port, we had 4 hotels in Cape Canaveral immediately adjacent to the port. By the end of next year, we'll have 12. That's how many new hotels we have. And when you come down A1A, there's 2 under construction now. There's 2 that were completed in the last couple of years. And you just go over the last 8 years, there's just been new hotels that are basically servicing our cruise guests. Most cruise guests come in the night before. They spend their night in a hotel. They spend some money in restaurants and maybe doing some entertainment. And then they get off the ship. They spend a few days here on the back end. So it's great for us to keep these people here, and it's definitely driving our tourism numbers in Brevard County. So one of the other things is continuous improvement, and I mentioned it a little bit in the beginning, in that we have to continue getting better at what we do. And there's nothing I can look at here at the port and not think, how could we do that better? There's got to be a better way. How could we do it more efficiently? How could we do it, where it looks better? There's always the kinds of things I'm thinking about. And we have to manage, our expectations basis the resources we have. So it is managed growth with defined resources. And if it was unlimited, there's all kinds of things we do. But we have to pick and choose what makes the most sense. So one of the things I think we need to do is, everybody thinks Port Canaveral is a great experience. You come in, it looks good. I think we can do better. And I want to enhance that visitor experience. If you're coming to Jetty Park, or you're coming to a restaurant, or you just come into the port, I want you to leave thinking, wow, that was a great place. That really looked wonderful. And you get that feeling that, this is great. And we live it every day, but to an outside person coming in here, they all see different things that we see. We had somebody help us this past year and just say, okay, and it's somebody that I know that's been on many, many cruises, and said, you're a cruise guest. You're coming to Port Canaveral. Tell me what you see. And over about a 3-week period, went through every terminal when it was running, when it wasn't running, drove on our roads. The feedback that I got from that report was amazing. Because there's things that we know where we're going in Port Canaveral, so we don't look at the signs. Well, if you look at some of the signs, they don't make sense, or they're repetitive. There's all kinds of things that a fresh set of eyes will help you find the right way to go forward. So we're looking at things we can do now to make things better in Port Canaveral. I know we can do it, and that's one of the big challenges for the next year as we grow. We also, this past year, spent considerable time, we talked about new cruise terminal over where Blue Points is. That creates a lot of issues, and Cape Marina's lease is coming up soon, and we've talked about how we're moving forward on that. We have a once in 45 or 50 year opportunity to reconfigure the west part of our port, and that's probably the least efficient property that we have in the entire port. And we have an opportunity to improve that, and that's what we want to do. But one of the things that's come out of some of the legwork we've been doing on that is understanding the commercial fishing industry. And we have 2 fish dealing operators here in the port, which we all think we've got the 2 fish dealing operators. But there's a whole fleet of people that support one of those. Both of them have different people supportive, different groups of fishermen supporting them. But one of those fish dealers has charter boats, they have commercial licenses. There's probably 50 to 60 of them here in the port. And for years, what we've learned is they really haven't been treated well by prior administrations. And, they are, as I like to say, the fabric of Port Canaveral. These are people that are making their living at our Port Canaveral, and not big cruise companies or big cargo interests. These are people that have a boat, and that's how they make their living. And one of the goals that we have going forward is to preserve and improve that commercial fishing operation. And anything that we do in the Marina District, my goal here is to make sure we take care of the commercial fishing piece. And there's definitely ways to do that, but the message I do want to convey today is we talked to you, we heard you, and we're listening. So I think that's very important for those folks. And as I say, transforming that Marina District, it needs it. We've got a lot of inefficient use of space out there. I've said it before, we have businesses here that probably shouldn't be here or definitely shouldn't be in Port Canaveral. They should be outside in the community. So as some of those leases come up, they will be not renewed, and we'll take the parcels back and use them for port-related businesses. On the cruise side, we got a problem. We don't have that new cruise terminal. If we had that cruise terminal now, we could fill it. The cruise industry has enough interest and enough discussions and long-term plans that they've shared with us that they're ready to go. Because of the complexities in building the new terminal and doing it on the south side of the port, it's going to take us a little time. So what do we do in the meantime? We've got bigger ships coming at us and small terminals that can't handle them. Well, we're going to enhance what we have. We're going to work with what we've got. Cruise Terminal 5 is a small terminal. I said, let's take a hard look at that. What can we do to make it bigger? Well, it's not easy, but it can be done. There are some things we can do. We can't put an Oasis-class ship there, but we can certainly get a 5,000-passenger ship there, but we need a larger luggage area. We need a larger terminal on the upside, on the top side, to hold people as they're getting ready to board. We need more parking, and we have ways to make all those improvements. But the big challenge is, I say it's a dynamic environment. These are working terminals. We have ships in some of our terminals 5 and 6 days a week. We have terminals in there that much. When do you do the work if you want to do an expansion project? You can't. You can only do it at night or one day. We've had problems right now with Cruise Terminal 10. It drives up our costs because we're working on second shifts. We're trying to work on days we don't have a cruise ship, but at Cruise Terminal 10, we'll have 5 days a week of ships this coming winter season. Every Saturday through the winter season, we'll have a ship here, 6 ships. Every terminal will be full on Saturday. So we've got a very, very busy season. So trying to make these improvements is a challenge. We're up to the challenge, but I just wanted to highlight that it does add to our cost. It adds to the complexity, but there are things we can do to preserve the growth that we have today and not turn away any business long term. Short term, we're having to say no, but longer term, we're not going to do that. We're going to keep going. So the other thing that we're trying to take advantage of, and I mentioned the flash parking system, is process improvements. We have a team here at Port Canaveral that just looks at everything we do and says, how could we do it better, more efficiently, use technology. So we do a lot of that today. It's a team that looks at how we can improve everything that we do. A couple of examples, the new flash parking system was part of that. The other efficient thing that we have now is CBP is using facial recognition for people getting off the ships. All cruise lines are doing it now. There was one that didn't join until the very end, but all of them are doing it. It cleans this place out in a couple of hours. So when the people get off the ship, they do the facial recognition. They're through Customs Border Protection, straight to their car and gone. And that has done wonders for our traffic situation. If you've been here in the past, we always had difficulties with on cruise ship days, and you might have 6 cruise ships in here or 5 cruise ships. It was hard to get in and out of the port. People were leaving and arriving at the same time, congestion in the garages. This streamlines everything so much. All the cars are out, and then the new ones come in. And you know, if you come in early and the other people aren't out yet, there's no place to park until they leave. So it's amazing today that we can move 7.6 million guests in and out of this port, and we don't have the same road congestion. We have some, granted, but we don't have the same road congestion we had 4 years ago. Just don't. And we're moving probably close to twice as many passengers now. So it's a big improvement. So you got to use technology where you can to improve your process. The other thing I want to do this year is elevate the guest experience. And I'm talking specifically cruise guests here. And I say we want to focus on all touch points. If you're walking into the cruise terminal, you know, I want all of our people to be helping in the process, our employees. But you look around like, is that window dirty? Why is that window dirty? Think about a cruise guest sees when they come through here. Do they see dust in an air vent? Do they see spilled coffee or whatever on the floor? I want to elevate all of that so that when people come in, they just look around and say, wow, this is really nice. And all it takes is effort on our side. We want to be the best at what we do. I tell my people all the time that we don't want to be less bad than other ports down south. We want to be the best, and they come here because we are the best. And we have all the vessels and all the itineraries. So I think we do that by improving our overall guest experience. We have 2 new garages. They just completed a few weeks ago. Added 3,000 new parking spaces, 2,000 at Cruise Terminal 6 and another 1,000 at Cruise Terminal 10. Why did we need all that parking space? We've got Princess Cruise Line, we've got more Carnival ships, we've got Royal Caribbean bringing larger ships, we've got Disney now at Cruise Terminal 10 with another ship. So it's getting busy. And we've got good metrics in our performance improvement group. We've got very good metrics now on vehicles and how many vehicles per guest, and if it's a 3-day, 5-day, 7-day voyage, they're all different on the drive counts. But we've got a pretty good way of estimating what the requirement is going to be in advance of needing it. So we've been quite successful. Those 2 garages up, ready. We had a little pain this past year in building them because the cruise employees had to park at the south side of the port and be shuttled to the ships because, once again, they're working terminals and we needed the space to build the garages, and that's where the employees were parking. So we're through that. We have additional parking projects going on the south side right now. We're expanding because when the icon of the Star of the Seas gets here next year, we're anticipating even more requirements for parking on that ship as well. We've got several roadway signage improvements. We're doing some things on the north side. You know, there's a funny little one we just did that, you know, if you're driving to a cruise ship and you're going to the Disney ship, you assume it's at the Disney terminal. So you can imagine the family and kids screaming in the back seat and guy's driving, he sees the ship and he's heading to the Disney cruise terminal. Well, the ship's not there, it's a Cruise Terminal 10. So how do we make sure they know that? And people are going to make mistakes, and once they get into that 8 loop, the only way to get back into the loop to Cruise Terminal 10 was to get back into what we call the, well, we got a lot of names for it, but you know what I'm talking about if you've driven it. So anyway, what we've done is we've added a cutover at Cruise Terminal 8, so when you get to the end of the guest or the cast member parking area, there's a cutback where you can take a hard left and get back in the queue for 10. We don't know if it'll be used. It may have been used already. We had our first ship over at Cruise Terminal 10 last weekend, but you can just see that, especially if you have 2 Disney ships and you can't tell which one's which and you're not reading the signs like you should be because the kids are yelling in the back, we figured we'd have an opportunity to try and smooth that out. So those are the types of things we think about. How can we make it better, easier? Somebody makes a mistake, how do we get them back on track faster? So that's some of our roadway signage improvements. We also have something very innovative coming. None of our other Florida seaports have this, but we're calling it a portable passenger boarding bridge. When I talked about, you know, maintenance and making sure that the equipment we have is up to speed and maintained, if you look at the number of people, we have over 1 million people coming on and off these 2 boarding bridges here at Cruise Terminal 1 every year. Actually, it's pushing close to 2 million. So each bridge is handling almost 1 million people going back and forth. That's a lot of wear and tear. So one of the things that we looked at is how do we take a boarding bridge offline when you've got a 7,000 passenger ship here? They can't use one, they have to have a second one. So we can't take one offline and do deep maintenance on it today, but we're buying a portable boarding bridge that can be plugged in its place. It can be moved any terminal in the port, and we can take a boarding bridge offline and do the required maintenance. These bridges take a beating, not just from people getting on and off, but we're in a very harsh saltwater environment. And when they're problematic, we hear about it. And the cruise lines aren't bashful about telling us that this boarding bridge is a problem, and I'm tired of hearing it. So we're gonna make some changes to fix that permanently. So we're really excited. That should be here in the third quarter of next year. Cargo side, we mentioned North Cargo Berth 4. Y'all are gonna see some changes over on the other side. First, the last pile has been driven for North Cargo Berth 4, so you won't hear the jackhammer anymore. Might hear it somewhere else, but you're not gonna hear it there. And the other thing is the CMEX silos that are been right behind North Cargo 4 on the north side of the port are in the process of being demolished. So we'll use that as new backup area for cargo operations. They would have been down already, but because of the berth project, they couldn't start the demolition, but they're getting ready to start now. So they'll be torn down. It's not going to be an implosion, but they'll be torn down with a wrecking ball. So it'll be a process of a few months to get it done, but you'll be seeing that happening in the near future. We also have those 2 old container cranes on the north side that they're coming down. They're obsolete. They're problematic. They don't meet EPA requirements. There's nothing good about them. They were built in the early 70s, and they just need to go away. So they will be demolished also in the next several months. Hope to have them out and gone and cleaned up by the middle of the year. Another third mobile harbor crane is coming. This one's going to be a little different. And the reason it's different is, you know, as I said, we communicate with our space partners. What can we do? What are you using? What kind of equipment do you need ahead of time? And on this particular crane, we learned that Relativity's booster that they're going to fly from Port Canaveral or Cape Canaveral in a couple of years has slightly different dimensions than the Falcon 9, such that the 2 cranes we have would not be usable. So we went back to Liebherr, the manufacturer of the cranes in Germany, and said, these are the specs that we need. How much would it be to change the crane? And they came up with a price, and it was $8,000. It was relatively minor. They had something in the bid. We swapped it out and that we didn't need, and it was a very minor change. But that rocket will be able to lift the Relativity space booster when they start operations. So it's a little bit different. Most of the expense is to a new counterweight. It's a bigger counterweight to lift the rocket because it's heavier. So we're excited about that. We're excited to have that flexibility that, you know, if this one doesn't work, we have one here that does. We're also doing berth box deepening in the port. And berth box is the area immediately adjacent to the berth. We've got the dredge in town. They're dredging now. It's about a $6 million project, not funded by the federal government. Normally, Army Corps gets involved in dredging if it's in the federal channel, but we have to do all of the other stuff like our berth boxes. So it's about $6 million, but 2 notable things we're doing on this. And North Cargo Berth 8's got a draft alongside of 35 feet. We're taking that one down to 43 feet. It's a cargo berth we built about 5 years ago. We've had issues. We've had slag ships that are deeper than 35 feet, sitting on anchor when we have an empty berth. We can't have that. So if we're going to use it for a cargo berth, we got to make it suitable for cargo ship. So we're taking that berth down to 43 feet. Also, North Cargo 1 and 2, which we're not doing anything special there except taking it from 39 feet to 43 feet. And the question is why? We've learned from talking with our fuel partners that there's a certain class of tanker that maximizes their draft, or maximum load is about 42 feet. So what they have to do when they're buying fuel, most of our fuel is bought while the ship's on the water, is they have to get that ship down to 39 feet before they can come into Port Canaveral. So that means they have to go somewhere else and drop fuel. They told us that if we have 43 feet there, they'll be pushing more fuel our way because they don't have to partially discharge the ship getting it in here. So we're going down to 43 feet. We've talked with the pilots. I think we've got a good plan that it's mostly the jet fuel ships that have this problem. So that'll give us an ability to increase our jet fuel ship size. On the space side, as I said, we support launch service providers. that have maritime assets. Today, that's only Blue Origin and SpaceX. But we also collaborate with all of them who are contemplating maritime operations in the future, and try to stay abreast. And the relativity story is a good example of what we try to learn ahead of time to make it easier for them to get started. We don't expect anybody before December of 26 is the first time we'll have somebody else with maritime operations. Our charter this past year was renewed in the legislature. It's done every 10 years. Some language was added to include the aerospace industry. Part of that responsibility now is we have to report to Space Florida once a year on what we're doing for the space industry at Port Canaveral. It's great. We do a lot. We do a lot that doesn't get reported, and I think it's a great thing to get some exposure as to what we're actually doing to support the industry. We're also participating in phase 2 of Space Florida's wharf study. That is a longer-term project to say if we continue to have maritime assets tied with space industry, then where can we put more boats that aren't working, that aren't doing anything? Today, SpaceX's fleet is constantly moving. They're in and out. They're collecting a booster because you see them launching almost 3 days a week, 2 days, 3 days a week. So their assets are always at sea. They come in, they get the booster off. Until you get into that cadence, you have assets that aren't being utilized and they have to park somewhere. And we're there with Blue. I know Blue's going to get to that cadence soon, but we've got their recovery vessels here at the port now and its support ship. So the tricky part for us is moving those assets around. We'll put them in a cruise terminal, we'll put them in a cargo terminal, but we have to move them around to facilitate other operations when they're here. But it's all communication and working together. On the environmental side, we were just recertified Green Marine at their highest level. We have another interesting project that really didn't get as much attention as I think it should, but the National Stormwater Trust has a smart pond technology. And when you build anything, any type of construction, you have to have a retention pond. It's a requirement for construction, and we've got retention ponds all over the place. But what this does, they turn a pond into what they call a smart pond, and it gets connected to a NOAA weather station, has special pumps, et cetera, that are all linked together. And when it senses a storm is coming, and they get the weather service predicts how much rain and all it's going to be, it drains the pond. It brings the level of it down so it can accept more water. And I'm not an expert, but the retention ponds are a function of total real estate. So if you have it on the south side, it can cover areas on the north side as long as you have enough of the retention capability. So because of this smart technology, it allows us to not have as many retention ponds as we have. And we have a approximately 7-acre retention pond on the north side of the port that really is in the way and would like to not have it. Now that we have this new technology, we're getting ready to fill it in. And we're going to recover 7 acres of property, useful property in our cargo area that we otherwise wouldn't be able to access. So it's really exciting technology. They first started over in Tampa Airport. Port of Tampa used it, and then during Hurricane Ian, there was a development in Southwest Florida that had this technology, and nobody flooded. Where the other neighborhoods around had floodwaters from the heavy rains, they were able to manage it with this technology. So it's really, really neat stuff. Last, we have FPL cooperative program. We have solar trees throughout the port, so it's great to go charge your phone if you've got the right jack. But we also have EV stations they recently installed here in the Cove area. We also have the Army Corps of Engineers mobilized. They're offshore now. They're getting ready to start Sand Bypass 6. And for those of you not familiar, the Sand Bypass, because of the way the port was built as a man-made port, the North Jetty accumulates sand and the South Jetty erodes sand. So every 4 or 5 years, the concept is to take the sand and pump it to the south side. So they're getting ready to start this. They can only do it in non-turtle season, so they do it from November until May. And they're getting ready to do that now. So they'll be piling the sand up on Cocoa Beach and Cape Canaveral very, very soon. It's a $100 million plus federally funded project. So this is just a few of our improvements we're doing this year. As you can see, we're spending a lot of money. I just want you to be aware. I'm not going to go through them all individually, but there's a lot of things that we're doing here in the port, and we wouldn't be able to do it without everybody's support. So I'm going to wrap this up pretty much by saying how do we shape the future here. We're a unique deepwater port, diverse operations. We have marinas, we have restaurants, we have parks, we have cruise operations, we have cargo operations, we have space. I mean, we have more things here at Port Canaveral than any other port I've ever been to, and I've been to a lot of ports. This is really, really a neat place. We are an economic powerhouse. We're going to continue to be that and continue to grow our business. And we always look at this as a joint effort with our port community. I mean, we wouldn't be doing what we do if it wasn't helping you grow your businesses, and it's very important that we all work together, and I hate to use it, but rising tide raises all ships, and I truly believe that. Our success is your success. So with that, we are jumping into another brief video.
Our future is expanding.
Our future is safety and security.
Our future is welcoming.
Our future is partnerships.
Our future is environmental stewardship.
Our future is community.
These are the people of Port Canaveral. Together, we're shaping our future.
You know, I would say thank you, but I always like to end this by thanking the men and women that work at Port Canaveral for me, because they make my job really easy. Thank you for all that you do. This is a very special place. I think those of you that live and work in this port truly recognize it for the special place it is. So thank you for allowing me to present today. We're having a short reception upstairs afterwards, so we'll be able to mingle and talk, and if you have any questions, I'll be available to answer them. So thank you for coming. It was a great turnout. Thanks.